Welcome back to our channel. The revelation hit Naomi like a thunderclap, shattering the fragile scaffolding of her world. The image of her father, Bill, once a pillar of safety, authority, and unconditional love, crumpled before her eyes as the truth revealed itself. The poison that had slowly consumed him was not a random act of fate, but meticulously delivered by Hayley, the woman Naomi had trusted most. Every memory of shared laughter, whispered secrets, and supposed friendship now twisted into grotesque reminders of betrayal. Naomi's heartbeat accelerated, each thump a violent percussion echoing the storm brewing in her chest, and a searing heat of fury radiated through her body, igniting every nerve ending with a primal, animalistic intensity. The city outside continued its indifferent rhythm, unaware of the silent explosion within Naomi's mind. Each step she took toward Hayley's residence felt like traversing a minefield, the tension coiled tighter with every moment, a taut wire straining to snap. Naomi's thoughts became a whirlwind of revenge and strategic calculations. She envisioned confronting Hayley, laying bare the evidence of her treachery, exposing the carefully constructed facade to the world. The concept of forgiveness, once a latent part of her personality, evaporated in the face of this monumental betrayal, replaced by a visceral hunger for justice, or perhaps retribution. Inside her mind, Naomi fought an internal war between control and chaos. Anger surged in waves, threatening to overwhelm her capacity for rational thought, yet a meticulous part of her plotted, considered every potential reaction, every possible consequence. She imagined Hayley's panic, her attempts to justify, manipulate, or deflect blame. She anticipated the defenses, the lies, and the psychological tactics that Hayley might employ to evade culpability. This mental chessboard expanded, each move more critical than the last, as Naomi balanced her escalating rage against the imperative to act decisively and effectively. Hayley, unaware of the full force of Naomi's awakening, had long relied on subtle manipulations and the illusion of trust to maintain her position. She had orchestrated Bill's demise with the precision of a seasoned strategist, masking her intent behind layers of charm, feigned concern, and carefully timed actions. Her internal world, however, was far from serene. Even the most calculated plans are vulnerable to the unpredictable variables of human emotion, and Naomi, once a friend, now a tempest, represented a threat that could unravel everything. Hayley's mind raced as she subconsciously assessed weaknesses, potential alliances, and contingencies, each thought tinged with fear and anticipation of the confrontation to come. As Naomi approached Hayley's home, the environment seemed to reflect the intensity of her psychological state. The streets, empty under the dim glow of evening, felt oppressive, suffused with shadows that mirrored the darkness rising within her. Every breath drew in a mixture of rage, grief, and a relentless drive to reclaim power over the injustice inflicted upon her family. Memories of her father's laughter, his wisdom, and his unwavering support collided violently with the image of his suffering, poisoned by the very person Naomi had once embraced as an ally. The collision of love and rage created a volatile cocktail, amplifying every decision, magnifying the stakes of every action she considered. Within the house, Hayley sensed an approaching storm even before Naomi's arrival. Her intuition, honed over years of manipulation and self-preservation, picked up on subtle vibrations in the air, changes in silence, and the weight of unseen observation. The knowledge that Naomi had discovered the truth triggered a cascade of defensive strategies. Every potential reaction was analyzed: confrontation, appeasement, distraction, or outright denial. Each strategy carried inherent risk, and each risk carried consequences that could irreversibly alter the power dynamics between them. Hayley understood that underestimating Naomi could result in not only exposure but complete social, emotional, and psychological destruction. Naomi's arrival was a collision of inevitabilities. She entered the house not as a supplicant or a seeker of reconciliation but as an agent of reckoning. Her presence was a tangible force, the culmination of grief, anger, and precision-driven intent. The room seemed to contract around her, as if acknowledging the magnitude of the confrontation about to unfold. Her eyes, aflame with a mixture of fury and grief, swept the space with acute awareness, noting potential hazards, exits, and tools of leverage. Every heartbeat synchronized with the tempo of impending conflict, and every exhale expelled the tension that had been building for weeks, months, years of suppressed suspicion and growing clarity. Hayley, now fully conscious of Naomi's state, experienced the rare and unnerving sensation of being truly cornered. She had manipulated, deceived, and controlled countless interactions before, yet the purity of Naomi's rage presented an unprecedented variable. This was no longer subtle manipulation or veiled threat, this was a direct assault on her carefully curated existence. The air vibrated with unsaid challenges, and both women operated in a delicate balance of psychological warfare, each testing boundaries, assessing weaknesses, and anticipating the reactions of the other. Naomi's mind was a storm of possibilities. Should she act impulsively, risking exposure and personal harm, or should she methodically dismantle Hayley's defenses, exploiting every psychological and environmental advantage? Every scenario played in rapid succession, creating a dizzying tapestry of potential outcomes. Within the tapestry were embedded questions of morality, justice, and identity. Naomi wrestled with the notion of becoming the very embodiment of the chaos she despised, yet each thought of her father's suffering, each replayed moment of his final days, steeled her resolve and sharpened her focus. The confrontation escalated in silence, yet each action, each subtle movement carried the weight of intent. Naomi's gaze, narrowed and unrelenting, communicated volumes of accusation and defiance. Hayley's posture, once assured and commanding, faltered under the intensity, micro-expressions betraying fear, uncertainty, and calculated response. The room itself seemed to pulse with the tension, an invisible third participant in the escalating psychological duel. Naomi's fists clenched, not from the need to strike, but as a conduit for the energy coursing through her, a physical manifestation of the internal maelstrom. Time became elastic, stretching and contracting in accordance with the intensity of emotions. Seconds elongated into eternities, each containing a lifetime of potential actions, each decision carrying irreversible consequences. Naomi envisioned Hayley's collapse, social, emotional, and psychological, and considered the methods through which the full impact of her betrayal could be revealed. She calculated exposure, influence over mutual acquaintances, legal implications, and the disintegration of reputational power. Every strategy reinforced her sense of agency, a stark contrast to the helplessness she had felt during her father's illness and eventual demise. Meanwhile, Hayley's internal calculations spun faster. She considered potential allies, covert defenses, and manipulative tactics that could mitigate the exposure of her crimes. Yet with each passing moment, the probability of total containment diminished. Naomi's presence, unwavering and charged with intensity, undermined confidence and introduced chaos into previously controlled plans. Fear intertwined with anger, producing a cognitive dissonance that complicated every decision Hayley contemplated. Every contingency now carried an escalating risk, and every potential manipulation required unprecedented precision to execute successfully. The room, once a neutral space, became a crucible of human emotion and psychological strategy. Naomi's drive for justice and retribution collided with Hayley's instinct for survival and control, producing sparks that threatened to ignite fully into destructive action. Each micro-expression, each shift of weight, each breathing pattern was a weapon, a declaration, a challenge. Both women were fully aware that no third party could intervene without influencing the delicate balance of power, and the invisible clock of inevitability ticked down toward an unavoidable climax. As Naomi advanced further into the room, she became the embodiment of every emotion she had suppressed: grief, anger, betrayal, and a relentless hunger for closure. Her every movement was calculated yet instinctive, guided by a mixture of raw emotion and strategic cognition. Hayley, now acutely aware of the stakes, struggled to maintain composure. Every protective facade wavered under the intensity of Naomi's gaze, and every instinctive reaction risked accelerating exposure. The psychological tension reached a peak where rationality and emotion were indistinguishable, creating a moment of pure, unmediated confrontation. At this point, both women were trapped in a high-stakes stalemate. Naomi's internal fire, fueled by grief and rage, had to be carefully managed to maximize impact while avoiding self-destruction. Hayley's cunning, honed through years of manipulation, faced its greatest test yet, countering a force that was emotionally unstoppable yet strategically precise. Each woman calculated risk against reward, morality against desire, survival against vengeance. The narrative of the confrontation extended beyond the physical space, affecting social circles, reputations, and the very structure of alliances within their shared community. Every decision Naomi and Hayley made would have cascading consequences, reshaping the relational and social ecosystem in which they operated. Alliances formed and dissolved in response to the psychological signals exchanged between the two women, and the moral landscape shifted as each action or inaction carried ethical weight and social consequence. By the end of this initial confrontation, the psychological battlefield had been fully established. Naomi, empowered by the clarity of purpose and the intensity of emotion, now held the initiative, while Hayley, forced onto the defensive, had to recalibrate every strategy to survive. The tension was far from resolved, and every future interaction would be influenced by the psychological imprint of this encounter. The consequences of betrayal, revenge, and emotional extremity would echo forward, shaping the narrative arc of their intertwined lives in ways that were both inevitable and unpredictable.